Oh, hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Cartoon Factory, or welcome to the Cartoon Factory if you've never been with us before. My name is Jim Gilbert, and I'm your host. Now, the reason I said it a little differently that time is I've received a lot of letters that say, "Hi, I didn't get your name." So my name is Jim. Don't worry about the last part. Some people call me Big Jim for obvious reasons. Does not bother me. If you want to say, "Hi, Big Jim." And another one that I've been tagged with lately is the Cartoon Dude, and I like that one too. Anyway, what we're going to do on today's program is we're going to take up where we ended on last program. Last program we did all these different faces featuring Bob and then the little girl, which I've decided to name Eve because of course you can't mess up her name either. So there's two characters that you can do without ever making a mistake. I've been raffling through my notes here, and absolutely I'm going to do a couple of Indians today. And today we're going to do something we normally don't do, and that's we're going to put in a background. Now, on the Cartoon Factory, we build cartoons using shapes, numbers, letters, and to this point, I've almost exclusively shown you how those work on the face. Well, the reason I chose Indians is because it makes a really cute cartoon character. I have a little one of my stories to tell you about something that happened to me as a kid with a quote-unquote Indian. It's no offense, it turned out that this gentleman didn't have an ounce of Indian blood in him, I found out later. And, but I get to show you how to make a teepee. And you make a teepee out of using two letters. So what we're going to do first, show you how to make the teepee, then we'll draw the characters, then we'll insert the teepee into the background. So let's go down here to the paper. Now, teepees are really very simple to make. You put down a line, which is your horizon line. If you've never seen the show before, a horizon line is what you either want your characters to be standing on or below. If you don't, they appear to be floating. Now, if you want to have floating Indians and a floating teepee, that's fine. Put them up here. If you want them anchored to the ground, put them below your horizon line. Now, you start off with a big letter X. Okay? But what you do is you make it much larger on the bottom than you do on the top. Now, some people like to put down a triangle and then a couple lines off of that. That's fine. That works too. The next, you put in the letter A, the capital letter A, and then you put the line across here. We'll raise this horizon line a little bit because in this particular instance, what that does is that shows the back, the inside of the tent or the teepee. All right? Come like this and this to have the door flap open. And then you can just go ahead and just decorate it all you want. Squiggly lines, little drawings, whatever you feel like doing. I've seen some Indian teepees that were absolutely gorgeous. I'm telling you, they should be works of, well, they were, in my opinion, works of art. And it must really be great to be able to live in a work of art. You come like this and thicken up the top lines. Maybe add a third if you want to. That's optional. But just that fast, using the letter X and the letter A, you've made a teepee. There are other backgrounds that we're going to do in the future that are built just as easily, but this is probably the simplest of all backgrounds to do. In my opinion, a cartoon, the most important part is the character. Actually, the most important part is the character's face, then the character, then the background. So you should keep the backgrounds real simple. What happens if you don't? If you start putting in real detailed backgrounds, you start to take away from your character, and you've kind of defeated the purpose of the cartoon. You want your characters to be, you know, they say the best way to do a cartoon character is to keep it simple, keep it cute, because what you want is you want people to like your cartoon character. So if your cartoon character has a bad day, they kind of feel a little bad. If your cartoon character has a great day, they feel great right along with them. So that's it, but keep it simple. But anything you're going to do as far as detail, I would spend the time on the face. Background is the third bit of information, in my opinion, on a cartoon. But let's go ahead and draw up a couple Indians here, my little Indian characters here. All right, we're going to run the paper this way this time, so we have a little more room. And we're going to insert our horizon line. Now, I've told you before, and you see how I'm wiggling it this way? That way it makes it look like some mountains rather than just flat land. I told you before I'm from Minnesota. When I was 16 years old, I went back to Minnesota to visit. Let's put in a balance line here for the first character and a balance line here for the second character. When I was in Minnesota and I was visiting, some of my relatives invited me over to meet a friend of theirs who introduced himself as a full-blood, I forget what type of Indian. I was very impressed because they had a neat little trading post, and before I left my journey from Minnesota to come back to California, he gave me this beautiful, what I thought was a beaded Indian belt. It was gorgeous. It was done in turquoises, and it had thunderbirds on it. It had all kinds of Indian insignias and symbols on it. It was great. I was riding the bus home. I had my belt on, wearing it with great pride. I got into about Oklahoma, and when I got up to get off the bus, the beads started falling off. And everywhere I walked, I left this trail of beads. I mean, there was no way I could get lost. I could just follow the remnants of my belt to get back. Went in the bathroom, took off my belt because I was very concerned about saving what was left of it, and underneath it said, "Made in Japan." Found out later this fellow, like I said, didn't have a drop of Indian blood in him. He was a complete fraud. Everything he sold was a complete fake. Because I'm sure that a well-made Indian beaded belt is not going to fall apart. This one, however, did. Okay, so that's what we're basing this cartoon on, is my belt that fell apart. We'll come over here and put the first little character in. We put in the balance lines because we want them standing a little bit apart. We use a circle for the head, a rectangle for the neck, an oval for the body. And we'll put one arm going like so. And we'll put his hand on. Now what I'm going to do in the very near future is we're going to do a recap show for all of you folks that have never been with us before, so you can see how we build all the shapes that we use. There we go. And then we just put a couple of little lines down for his legs. And for the feet, we're going to put in ovals. Now this is normally how you start feet and hands, is with ovals. But this time, since our little Indian character is actually going to be wearing moccasins, what we'll do is we'll leave it like this and simply come through with a little row of X's to show where the lace work is at. Okay? Now, we're going to come up here on the face. Put a C for the nose. Big smile. And we're going to come in here and put a curved line like this, and a curved line like this for his hair. Put the ears on. Now once again, we run X's down here for the braids that he's wearing. Put a little bit of hair at the end. Add his eyes. Have him looking off to the side. That's another thing, when you're doing cartooning, you can have your cartoon appear to be looking in different directions just by simply moving the position of the pupils and the eyes. We'll add a headband. And we'll add a feather. We're going to put this gentleman into a loincloth, so we just drop a little, like a stretched out U shape right here. Then we put a line across here and a line across here. This is going to represent the belt. And of course, he's not going to have an idea in the world what's going on with his belt. Now over here, we're going to do something new today. Instead of having a front view like we normally do, we're going to do a side view. On a side view, the secret is to just remember one. If your character is just standing there, not running or walking or anything, but just standing there, you only show one eye, one ear, one leg, and one arm. That's the secret of one. As long as you remember that, it's very simple to take and change your character from a front view to a side view. So we're going to put the little Indian lady in here now. We start off the same way with the balance line. Put the circle in for the head. There we go. Now see, she'll appear to be a little bit larger because she's actually a little bit forward on the paper. Put a rectangle here. Once again, we'll use an oval for the body. And then this time, we simply use one shape for the leg. Now, as I've told you before, when you're doing the leg, it should be thicker up here on the body and thinner as it comes down to the foot. And then we'll put a big moccasin here. Run the X's. Well, it doesn't have to be a big moccasin. It can be a small moccasin. Depends on what size your character's feet are. And then we run a sideways L and come down a little lower and put in a second L. Now this time we want to run the oval this way to start her hand, and then we cut into it. You put, because I want one finger pointing out. Okay, we'll come in here and put in some bangs. Drop her hair down. We add her nose, her eye. Remember, just the one, and then you show the ear or part of the ear, and then we'll drop the hair down like this. There we go. Now, since I want her to actually have her mouth partway open, she's actually pointing to the other guy, to the other Indian, telling him something. What you do here is you use the letter K. When you put the letter K in, what that does is it has the mouth partway open, and it also puts in the cheek line all at once. So by just putting that one line or that one letter in, you've accomplished two different things. So let me show you how you do that. You come in here and just put the back of the K, and like in any of the cartoons and any of the letters that we use, it can be done in either direction. Then you go like this and this, backwards letter K. We'll connect it here, drop it down to her chin, and let's make her eye a little bit bigger. All right, now and let's give her a feather too before we go any farther. There we go. Now, every Wednesday night, I go out with my family, weather permitting, and the family gets together and everything. And we go out and we do coffee. And we sit around with some very dear friends of ours and that are really into American Indians and American Indian, pottery and clothing and stuff. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. And one of the gentlemen is from Minnesota, so we have a lot to talk about, the Minnesota end of it. But they brought in some of their catalog work the other night, and we took a look at some of the Indian wear, and some of the buckskin stuff that they've got is tremendous. I mean, it's really, really nice. So what we're going to do is we've put the gentleman, our little man Indian, into a loincloth. We're going to put the young lady into a nice buckskin dress, and we're going to put some fringe on it. So let me show you how that's done. You come down here. Let's say you want to make the sleeve a little bit thicker. You just drop in a backwards letter J, and then come this way and up, just to give it a little more thickness. Then for the actual dress itself, you can make it as long or as short as you want it, depending on how long you make these lines on either side of the leg. I'm going to stop about there. Then I'll put the fringe in, and you just simply put in some lines like this. Now remember, don't get too carried away, because you don't want to take away from your character. But there we go. So now she's in her outfit. Let's give her a headband too. All right, now let's take and put in the teepee that we started on with at the beginning of the show, and then we'll put in the hook of the hook or the funny part of the cartoon, which is he'll be standing there and all the beads are popping off of his belt. He's standing there waving to you, "Hi, how you doing? Welcome to my teepee. This is my friend, my wife, whatever," and she's standing there pointing at him, trying to tell him that his belt's falling apart. So let's go ahead and do that. You come back here, remember below this line, which represents our horizon line, and we'll put in the teepee, and it can be a little smaller. After all, in cartooning, there is no such thing as a mistake. We put in the letter A. We round this off. Put the flap open here. You can come in here and darken this up a little bit if you want. Add the thickness to the sticks. And come in here and I'm going to put just a few little designs here and there. You can do whatever you want to with yours. Put in some little spikes to hold the end of it down. And I think we might even put like a cloud in the sky. So just put a few little loops like that in, and maybe a bird or two. See, a bird, you use just simply a stretched out letter M, notice? Okay, now we come to the funny part of the cartoon. Here's the young lady, she's noticed what's going on, she's pointing at him, he doesn't have a clue in the world. So we'll come in here and we'll put in some little pattern work up to about here. And we'll do the same on this side, up to about here. Then we're going to fill this in all dark. And maybe we'll come back here and put a little bit of fringe on the bottom of his loincloth too. There we go. But now you just start drawing little circles. Let me change pencils here. This is the beads that are popping off of his belt. Believe me, I know from experience how embarrassing it can be to be walking down the middle of a bus with all your beads popping off and not having a clue in the world until you hear this tick, 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 tick stuff going on behind you. And you realize that no one has a bomb. It's simply the beads falling off of your belt. Okay, there we go. So now she's telling him, hey, look, all the beads are falling off your belt, pal. And he's going, oh, yeah, hey, fine, come see my tent. Now, what I'm going to do for you is I am going to do a little bit of inking today. I promised I would do that for some of the folks that have never been with us before, just so you can see what I'm talking about when I say we ink. Now, from this point in your cartoon, there's two things you can do. You can either ink it like I'm going to, or you can put a fresh piece of paper over it and you can trace it. The only difference is when you put a fresh piece of paper over to trace it, at the end you don't have to erase anything. If you do it this way, where you're actually inking right on top of the pencil, whatever pencil is left that you want to get rid of, needless to say, you have to erase. Two secrets to inking. Try, and as you're going along, I mean, needless to say, it'd be great if you could do the whole thing in one move. Most people have a difficult time doing that. I don't even do that. So what you do is any place where a line connects, that's where you want to stop. Rest for a second and move on. Now, I actually got a letter in from a gentleman who either is or was with the FBI, and he was telling me, he was a handwriting analyst, and he was telling me that there are the dots that are created when you stop your pen and then you start again are actually called hesitation points. I didn't know that, but when they're checking out handwriting, hesitation points play a big part in it. The reason I tell you to place your hesitation point, kind of a cool word, next to a connection place is because if it does bleed out a little bit, it really won't be that noticeable as if it would be if it was in the middle of a straight line. So let me go ahead and we'll start inking this little fellow here in. Put on glasses so I can see what I'm doing. You simply come along and you can be as loose as you want. Even at this point, you can make changes. Follow your pencil line. You don't have to be right on it. And see, when I stopped where two lines connected. If I were to stop in the middle and then start again, I leave kind of a little glob there. That's what would be considered a hesitation point. It's going to be my new word now. And thank you, by the way, for that info. And I won't tell anybody what your name is, because I don't want you to get in trouble in case we weren't supposed to have that information. But thank you. Put the little X's down. Let me follow here. And even at this point, what's fun about cartoons is even at this point, if you want to change, now let's say all of a sudden I decide I want to put a little bit of a drop here underneath our Indian's mouth, I can. I can go right ahead and put that in. And bring this back up. fill this in. Now, whether you're going to do your cartoon in black and white or in color, what you should do is you should take like areas like in the mouth and the eyes and go ahead and fill those in anyway. We'll see if we can't get this little fellow done here for you. There we go. Put on his loincloth. Now see, since I changed my mind halfway through, I don't need that bottom line anymore. So I'm just going to put the fringe on, and when I go to erase this, all that pencil will disappear, and just the fringe will show up. X's for the lace work. Same thing here. Yeah, another thing I did when I was in Minnesota, which was really very interesting, is I went up to the lakes and we went inside of a real Indian tent this time, and they had a bunch of rocks in there, and it was very, very, very hot inside. And what you did was you took, I believe it was birch that we used, you would sit inside of these tents or teepees and you'd really get hot and really get sweaty. And what would happen is that was actually, you were taking a bath of sorts, because what you would do is when you got really hot and sweaty, you would take this birch branch and you would scrape your skin. And you would scrape it off, all the sweat and everything off. And then after your whole body had been scraped, you ran from the tent and jumped into an ice cold lake. It's a real jolt to the system. But I've got to tell you what, in my whole entire life, I've never felt so clean. It was just, it was amazing. And, you know, it was like taking a bath without having any water. You just scraping the stuff off. Not that I was dirty enough to really need to scrape anything off, but yeah, you never know. Now, if we can get my table to behave for half a second, I'll show you a little bit of erasing here. You come up here, get a good eraser, and just come through here, and any place where the pencil is showing or any place you want that pencil gone, simply erase it. Now, don't do this real fast. You want to let your ink dry a little bit first. Okay, you have, and because if you don't, your ink is going to spread all over the place. You can come up here and brush this away. You normally use a brush or a towel. I mean, I have my little towel here, so I guess I should do that. You can blow this away if you want, or if you shake it off, please, please, please shake it into a trash can. Once again, somebody didn't. Once again, I got in trouble. My fault. I should have been telling you that all along. All right, now let's take a look at some viewers' cartoons. This came in from a young lady named Cassie. Cassie just did a whole bunch of little teeny sketches here. Cassie, these are great. We've got the little teddy bear, you know, snake and a fish, and excellent, excellent work. Well, all the work that comes in here is excellent. Now, this was another card that was sent in for Zelda. Once again, Zelda is fine. Yes, she still has a tooth missing. Missing? Sounds like I have a tooth missing. She has a tooth missing. She still drools, but she's still a sweetheart, and she's just fine. She still chases her ball like crazy. This came in, beautiful card drawn here, well wishes written inside. Thank you, Flora. This came in from at this time, a 5.5-year-old. Lauren drew a crazy chef and a grumpy chef. Mine was a crazy chef, hers is a grumpy chef. Believe me, there are times in the kitchen when you are both. Great job. This came in from Stephen. It just says, Mr. Cartoon from Stephen. Well, Stephen from Mr. Cartoon, thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And then here's another card that came in for Zelda. This is actually all hand done, and I don't know if it shows up on camera or not, but it's got gold glitter, and it's got little hearts, and everything is all raised up. I mean, it's absolutely beautiful. And then inside is the nice well wishes for Zelda. And then this was a first. This is the very first of these I've ever received, and this is a great idea. I'm going to move back here to a black sheet of paper so this will really show up. This is a postcard that came in, and this is an actual watercolor and pen, and it's got the ink and watercolor postcard from Tracy in Chicago, Tracy Flowers. And Tracy, I took this out of the frame, because yes, I did frame it. I took this out of the frame just to bring it into the studio to show everybody, but isn't that a marvelous, marvelous job? Well, they all are, but I mean, this is my very first postcard, and I'm very pleased with that. Let's show just a couple more here. Okay, this came in from you know, I'm going to stop trying to pronounce the names because I mess them up every time. I think it's Krista. Great little job, a couple of ballet dancers here. This came in from George in Texas. Now, George, I've shown his work a couple times before. George was my very first cartoon to come in from Texas, and George was telling me he had never thought about drawing it in pencil, then doing felt tip pen on top of it. So even a semi-professional or professional cartoonist learns things here on the Cartoon Factory. Okay, gang, our time is up. Next time we get together, we might even do a little bit of color work together. I have promised you I'm doing a show on colors that's coming up very, very soon. I'll tell you when. That'll be the day when you need to just bring your colors in. I hope you had a good time. I hope you learned something. I had a marvelous time. And just remember, you are always welcome at the Cartoon Factory. See you next time.